Morning. Our third day has arrived for our Media Innovation Summit. Thanks again for all of you to be here. I don't like to say the best is saved for last because we've had so many great sessions and so many great speakers. But I will say that everything that we have happening today is on par with what we've seen the previous 2 days, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the views on all the subjects we'll be covering between now and noon. We're going to begin with our keynote speaker. It's not the person that is in the program. He unfortunately was not able to make it, but to our everlasting gratitude to Motorola and to Nate Williams, Nate has agreed to speak to us this morning. Nate Williams is a senior director for marketing and business development for the Converged Experiences division of Motorola Mobility. He has got an interesting background, and so it's only appropriate that he would be heading up the Converged Experiences aspects of what Motorola Mobility is doing. And that has to do with their software, and of course that's a huge piece of what's happening in their service provider markets right now is getting to the ability of virtualizing and converging everything around very, very intelligent processing using advanced software. And so Nate is in very good position to lead the marketing and the strategic development of this initiative. He has 15 years experience in business development and corporate finance. He's been, in the past, he was involved with a company called 4Home, which was acquired by Motorola in 2010. That's when Nate came with that acquisition. He had been chief marketing officer of 4Home and had helped build that into a very successful connected home services company. Prior to that, he was with Intel's Digital Home Group. And he also has had experience with J.P. Morgan. It just happens that Nate, last night, was honored as being on the list of the 40 under 40 that the San Jose Business Journal picks every year as really promising young executives in Silicon Valley. And so Nate happened to have the honor of being chosen for that list and awards last night right here, and so it was very convenient for him to be able to speak with us this morning. He holds a Master's of Marketing and Technology Management from Anderson School at UCLA, and he's bringing to us this morning some new research and some new things, a worldwide perspective that Motorola has, and I think we're going to really learn a lot. So Nate, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred, and I'd like to thank the folks in the audience. This year's Media Innovation Summit has delivered a variety of really interesting conversation. As Fred had mentioned, I'm Nate Williams. I run product marketing for Motorola's Converged Experience Group. My background started in Hollywood. I was part of William Morris Agency, so I do have experience fetching coffee for stars, if that's important to do this job. And as was mentioned, I was part of the management team for a company called 4Home Media, which was purchased by Motorola last December. Real quickly, in terms of agenda for today, I want to talk a little bit about Motorola's point of view on the connected home. So we're seeing this convergence between software and devices in the home, and it's really powering this next generation of customer experiences. Next, we have released next week our third annual Media Engagement Barometer. We've surveyed over 9,000 folks in 16 different countries, and we found some very compelling evidence of what's happening with multi-screen, the use of tablets, different social TV aspects. And lastly, I want to talk about the implications, the so what. We're doing things in this market. What are consumers needing from us as an industry? What are things that we can do better from technologists and from the content business to really drive this forward? A little bit about our point of view at Motorola Mobility. I'd really like to start with two main pillars of our business. So on the right-hand side, we talk about the mobile device business. In terms of having a leading franchise of smartphones and a tablet business, what that really informs us to is the use cases that are happening in the home with the hardware, how you are interacting with that technology, how you meet that technology yourself. We're coupling that with a deep background in infrastructure. And so again, not necessarily the most sexy part of the business, but understanding from a network perspective of how content can be delivered. How do you bring that experience to the consumer? Gives us the point of view that says, these are the experience across multiple screens that consumers want. This time last year, we formed a group called Converged Experience. I lead marketing for Converged Experience. The group is run by John Burke, the SVP and GM, formerly ran the set-top box business. Converged Experience is really delivering multi-screen content experiences and lifestyle experiences to a variety of screens. We have about 15 different products ranging from conditional access and DRM, starting with our Secure Media HLS Plus solution, all the way to home automation and control. As I talk through the industry and really educate people about our direction in digital home, people ask me what are some of the converged experiences. And so rather than make a specific product pitch for Motorola, I talk rather generally about a portfolio of services. So connected services, converged services, operate as a portfolio across multiple screens. And so when we look at the progression, we see several interesting things. Most great experiences at home start with a quality content experience. So in terms of converged media, it's something that our customers and our partners really care about. Gaming is a sector that we've found to be extremely exciting, both from the demographic and psychographic perspective. Specifically around casual and online gaming, we're seeing specific trends that are very exciting. The rise of tablet computing is probably one of the most profound changes in entertainment in the past 25 years. As of this morning, some research we found from Pew, it's about 12% tablet penetration here in the US, with 25% purchase intent in the next year. There's a prediction of 85 million tablets to sell in the next 12 months. So think about that from the perspective of how that changes that entertainment experience. A lot of discussion you hear about personal cloud or private cloud. When we think about those opportunities, it's about consumers interacting with their data anywhere in the world. It could be content, it could be information. Interesting enough, when you look at terabyte storage trends and costs, we're starting to see some refractory of folks that want to have local storage, and it's an area where we are looking. When we talk about for-fee services, there's also an aspect of the home of how you can make this simple, how you can make it useful. So network assurance is part of this converged experience mix, where we really talk about how to do things like self-help and network assurance. You have somebody come into your home, you need an IP address. So again, what we focus on doing is delivering for customers. It's really about making the technology work for the consumer, not the other way around. And lastly, what we've seen in the marketplace around connected home services is quite explosive. When you think about home automation, energy management, home control, or home health, the rise of sensor-based devices, low-cost silicon, and obviously network effects, we're seeing a variety of applications be launched in the market. We recently announced last month that we're working with Verizon. We've launched a connected home service that's getting great attention, and we feel very positive about that. Something that's differentiated in terms of Motorola with our point of view is when we've traditionally looked at the digital home, folks have put content consumption in one distinct bucket and lifestyle in another. And that's actually counterintuitive to what we see with our customer research. We see a portfolio of services that transcend from content consumption into lifestyle. So again, without going into specifics on the portfolio, we start with a very vigorous media portfolio on multiple screens using security, move into things like personal cloud. We have something called Motocast, which has recently been launched. On the lifestyle service, the topic around lifestyle is really around how you can enable these great connected experiences. people sometimes wonder, is there going to be a killer app? Right now, it's not about having the killer app. It's a portfolio of services that can really deliver this connected experience. When you look at households 5 years from now, they're going to have different profiles. Some people will have a home security service, some will have energy management, et cetera. Some of the biggest innovations we're seeing here is the reduction in silicon cost because of Moore's Law. We're seeing a variety of network trends that is really transforming this business. In addition to having the application front end, it's very important to have the technology infrastructure to manage the customers. Any folks online or in the audience can agree, if you're rolling this out to millions of households, it has to be done in a way that's got double, triple, or quad 9 reliability. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about how convergence is creating new opportunities. That's really paramount to what we're doing here at this show. High level, if you look across the top, mobile computing and mobile internet are really changing behavior of how people interact with technology. We've got basically computers in our pockets right now that are contextually aware. They're always with you. Where I've focused with my team at Motorola has really been looking at the contextual relevant standpoint. Is there something curated and contextual that can happen across multiple screens? We have something that we do with Smart Rules that would allow you to have GPS-triggered events. So it's making that technology work for you. Across the digital home, having started my career in content at William Morris and Walt Disney, we've really found a variety of things that have changed in the past 10 years in terms of access to content across multiple screens, and even on the digital home where we've seen unified content access. More important than the opportunities are the challenges. And one thing that I like to do with my team is really focus on some of the barriers to adoption and some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market. So, there's a topic in Hollywood we talk a lot about called four-walling. These are some of the four-wall experience that we see from a Motorola perspective. The first has to do with the personalization of multi-screen experiences. So when you think about that great experience you get from a web UI that can be personalized and customized, our customer base is asking for that same personalization happen on a TV through a head-end unit. So we have a software technology called Dream Gallery, which allows our customers to offer an HTML5 interface. Next would be delivering smart connectivity between devices. We try not to speak about technology, it's about end user value. When you think about DLNA and UPnP, Zigbee, Z-Wave, that's really irrelevant to customers. Customers don't care about those technologies. What they care about is a seamless experience. And we'll talk about some network trends. There's a prediction of 15 connected devices on the network by 2015. Those devices need to fit together seamlessly and deliver this connected experience. Content anywhere, there's a variety of trends that we'll hear. I know Spencer is speaking after me specifically about some trends in over the top. There's a variety of angles with content. It's not only technically being able to deliver it through DRM, it's also having rights and clearances for that content. So 5 years ago, there was a lot of discussion of replacing the analog dollars with digital dimes. Some work that I did when I was at Disney was really about monetizing that content across the windows. So delivering content is a challenge, both from a business model and technology. We're seeing some great moves forward. Lastly, and most importantly, the biggest challenge that we've seen in our research for consumer adoption has been maintaining the simplicity and consistency of the experience. So think about the activities you do each day that involve user interface. You look at Facebook or LinkedIn, you have a mobile phone, you have a tablet. Each time you take on a new service, you have to learn a new user interface. And our point of view is about how you can make that seamless. If you have a personalized user interface and you're doing a media application, it's not that difficult to assume that you could bring in something like a connected fitness. You understand the navigation, the look and feel is similar. And so over time, our point of view is the personalization of these user experience is going to help consumers take on new services. I was told to do some setup for the next session with Spencer and Laura. I think it's important to not only talk about what we see, we've also spent a lot of time thinking about the market in a global context. Next week, we'll be announcing some highlights from our third annual Media Engagement Barometer. We've surveyed 9,000 respondents across 16 countries and really found some groundbreaking evidence. The nexus of the research was really around how consumers deal with media and internet. We also talked about connected home services. And so when you look worldwide, it's important to understand, although we are becoming a lot more consolidated in our views of media, there are still very significant differences in domicile. So for example, the use of TV, mobile TV, there was a 40-point variance between some of the countries in Asia Pacific and some of the Nordic countries, from 52% to approximately 12%. That's very material when you think about rolling out a service. In terms of changing habits in entertainment, next week we're going to go into much more detail when we announce our survey results. But what we find compelling here is sort of building out people's habits for entertainment consumption. So first is in video gaming across the 9,000 respondents. It's approximately 5 hours per week, spending time on social networks. If you look by country or by region, in some countries in America, we see much higher trends in terms of penetration and time spent on social networking. Television and film watching, interesting enough, at 15 hours. We're starting to see a symmetry between time spent watching TV and film and the internet. So as we see symmetry between those two, it's interesting to see how they're spending their time in front of web activities versus on the TV. When folks from my marketing team first showed me this slide, first thing I said is, this is way too complicated of a slide for me to understand. I'm not generally in the business of showing complicated slides. But what we're doing here is in a scatter diagram, basically showing the breakdown of how consumers are interacting with media. Obviously, if there's any MBAs in the audience, you guys would love a 2x2 grid with 80/20. What's compelling about this is what we're seeing here. Two things. First of all, over the past 3 years, we're starting to see a progression from the bottom right-hand quadrant to the top right-hand quadrant. This is online usage against media consumption. So we're seeing a increasing percentage of folks in that quadrant 1 in the top right-hand quadrant. And what's interesting, when you look at the psychographics and demographics of that 20%, these are the folks that are influencing decisions, cord cutting or cord shaving. These are the people that are pushing out with mobile TV use cases. We found some very compelling evidence. Also, what we've seen is a increased symmetry between folks who are using online and television. So it's been very hard hitting. There's also some things we've seen, if you're familiar with what multicollinearity is, we've seen some of that in our data. Getting back to some slides that are much easier to understand, the use of multi-screen, or what we call end screen at Motorola, has really been on the rise. This is data that we think is extremely material. So in the research that we did, only 31% of the 9,000 respondents watched all their television entertainment on a TV. The remaining 69% watched some of their television content on a variety of screens, including a mobile phone, a tablet, a PC. So we're seeing a groundbreaking change in people's consumption patterns for television. Only 31% of people still watching only on a TV. In terms of social media, interesting enough, we saw a 2x growth year over year for the use of social TV. And so with this question, we were looking at people who watch TV. Are you discussing it real time via Twitter, via Facebook, via Google+? We found a 2x growth in social media year over year. We found 40% were using social networking for finding content recommendations. So one example from my personal life would be the use of the Spotify service plugged into Facebook. Not only do I get to see some great content that my friends are listening to, but I also have the opportunity to share with them some recommendations about new music. Last bullet here is around 62% of our respondents in this study across 16 countries expressed interest in a service that would provide recommendations on content, film, television, music, and also would pass their recommendations into their social network. So we've definitely seen a rise in the need for social TV. We'll also be showing a Motorola social TV application after this presentation over there in the exhibition room. Not everything that we've seen from the research is positive. We've seen compelling trends in terms of the rise of mobile TV. To get this mass market, what we really have to combat is the apathy. So in our research, what we found is lack of interest has been the biggest barrier to adoption, wide adoption, mass market adoption of mobile TV. There's also elements of screen size where our respondents were talking about it's very difficult to watch TV on smaller screens. I'm holding a Droid Razr, which has a relatively large screen, almost a 5-inch screen. As we start to optimize the screen size and we do a 16:9 aspect ratio, I think we'll have a better experience. When we talk about geo preferences, our folks in LATAM expressed lack of suitable devices for the primary barrier for doing mobile TV. And lastly, in some of the APAC regions, specifically in Singapore, there was a lack of network bandwidth available, cited as the cause for not adopting mobile TV. We talk a lot about media. I believe firmly that we're going to see a big rise in lifestyle. What the data has shown us on home automation, traditionally as a category, this has been around for the past 10 or 15 years. It's had the Swiss Army knife problem. You could do so many things with home automation, but none of them really matter to a consumer. And where we've focused our time is really understanding what are the key value propositions that a home automation framework can deliver to a consumer. Some of the work that I'd like to call out has been on behalf of Verizon, which recently rolled out a connected home service using some of our software at Motorola. They spent a lot of time looking at their segmentation and finding some specific use cases that resonate with consumers. Some of them were around energy management, the ability to save money each month. Some of them were really around having the ability to see your home no matter where you are. So again, I think this is a category, home automation and control, that's emerging. There's more work that needs to be done on the value proposition, but over time we see this as part of a portfolio of services that consumers will ultimately adopt. Wrapping up on some of the research that we did and just talking through my point of view, having been here an entrepreneur in the Valley and been on Wall Street before, and starting my career fetching coffees down at William Morris, just talking about some implications. So the first thing is, as an industry, we have to coalesce around the view that you have to give consumers what they want. Shelley Palmer obviously has had a variety of great sound bites and great quotes. I think we're past the point where we can control what consumers do. They have their ideas, they're savvy with technology. It's about giving them those experiences on their terms. When it comes to media, it's the high quality video. It's being able to time shift. You don't want to be stuck by a linear schedule on TV. Having it available on any device is also extremely important. Next thing is really about making it work simply. So the diagram to the right is a perfect example of something that is not simple to understand. What this was an attempt is mapping services to boxes to screens. And when we talk about convergence, it's not about what we want to do as a Motorola or a Disney or a Cisco or Google. It's about what that consumer wants. And it's about making it extremely appealing and making it extremely easy to interact with. As a marketer, one of my challenges is looking at this technology and bringing it to consumers in a way that they're going to understand. Technology has scaled so fast that consumers' tech IQ has a tough time keeping up. And the dissonance and friction that we're seeing in the household, I spend a lot of my time, and my team does, really focusing on how we can reduce that friction. There are infrastructure aspects to what we do as programmers and as content folks. Just some stats here that we're talking about. When you look at the rise of broadband connectivity, 87 million households will be online by 2015. We have in our homes now in the US 5 devices connected on average in the network. It could be a connected TV, it could be a PlayStation, it could be a camera. That number will triple in size to 15 connected devices by 2015. So just think about these types of sensor-based devices which will be on your network, gaming consoles. What does that mean to user experience? What does that mean to what you want to do for the network? Online video usage, 250 hours of online video consumed per month per household. And our CAGR, it depends on your data set, but our CAGR has been around a 43% per annum bump in IP traffic. Wrapping up, I get asked quite often as I speak at a variety of conferences or have some interviews with the press, how can we move this industry forward? Having spent the past 15 years focused on the intersection of Silicon Valley and Hollywood, a lot of it comes back to collaboration. So when you look at the picture here, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this iconic photo. It's from 1938. What you may not know is this was actually the construction crew that was working on building the RCA building. The RCA building subsequently became the GE building where NBC is housed. And obviously based on some recent activity with Comcast, that's where Steve Burke spends a variety of his time. There's a lot of things we can take away from this. They're operating 60 stories above the ground. The perils of falling are obviously very high. When I look at what it takes to deliver consumers what they want, it's about collaboration. And one of the things I would encourage people both online and the audience is make sure we get out there and have the conversations and the relationships with other folks in the industries. When we think about the triad of Madison Avenue and Silicon Valley and Hollywood, traditionally we have stayed very insular. We like to hang out with other investment banking analysts. We like to spend time with other studio exec. I think it's very important for us to have those discussions and understand how the business can change. That being said, there is a business that we have to respect, and I would end with a quote recently from Peter Guber on Bloomberg West. It's, Peter Guber basically said it best, where it's show business, it's not show. We're in this business, obviously, for delivering innovation to consumers. It's also a business, but I would encourage everyone in this room, let's look a little bit more long-term. Let's build relationships that can actually stand the test of time. Let's get away from the type of environment where we need a content deal. We go get a quick content deal. We need an ultraviolet deal. People come up to Silicon Valley. I think that will be, over time, a more compelling value proposition to the end users. I want to thank you for your time and attendance. Again, I'm Nate Williams from Motorola. I'll be happy to talk to anybody offline. Thank you very much.